no matter what it is that you're offering, people are exchanging money in return for a result, right? Mm-hmm. Whatever it is. So whatever you're selling, whatever they're buying what you're selling only to get the result that having it will get for them.
You hear all the bull about marketing every day. Make your money in your sleep. My new offer is crushing it. My guru could beat up your guru. It's time to go right to the source and get the truth about marketing. With your host, the founder of copychief.com, Kevin Rogers.
Hey, Dean, thanks for being on the call today. Really appreciate it, buddy.
Oh, it's all very exciting.
It is exciting.
Yes.
So, I've been hearing you talk more and more about this idea of compelling versus convincing in your marketing. This is in typical Dean Jackson fashion. There's a URL waiting to happen. I'm going to go grab that as soon as the call's over. Dean Jackson fashion. I
love it.
This is not something that, I love that I've probably first started hearing about this a couple of years ago, and it just keeps getting more and more defined, right? And because I know you're seeing it more and more places, and having the privilege of hearing you talk about it again recently at John Carlton's mastermind. So we ran a survey to the list and asking them about their offers and what they struggle with in getting their offers up live and selling. And so much of it brought to mind what you talk about. So I'm just going to read a couple of the random responses here, and then I'd love to hear your ideas and what it reminds you of that you've been seeing. Okay, so what is your biggest challenge when it comes to offers/conversions? A clear, irresistible message that communicates value without lowering my prices or making special offers every time. Getting them to open their wallets. Closing hard on the call. Wording my offers effectively. Sales closing language. Is what pushing hard enough for the sale without slipping into obnoxious, right? So there's this sort of vibe here.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. I mean, I noticed the pattern right away. Here's the pattern of it, is all of those can be summarized as, how can I get people to do what I want them to do?
Right.
How can I convince them to buy my stuff? Right. That's really the bottom line of it all. Yeah. And that, when you really think about it, I think that there's so many things that all come into play here. And it's, as an observer of it in my own life, we're completely self-absorbed. Everybody is completely and only interested in our own self-advantage. And our own self-interest. And so I think Zig Ziglar is who said you can get anything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. And most people buy into that sort of philosophically, but they don't really buy into it logistically, because the logistics of the wording of the way that phrase works is that getting what you want is subsequent to getting what they want. It's saying, and so we always do that. Totally. Yeah. I want to give me the money and I'll help you get what you want. Right. That's really the way that people kind of glass over that, and so I've really been such a student of what makes people move. What is it that, how do we set things up so that it's on its own momentum? And a long time ago, I read a thing about mice and about why we use mice in all these scientific studies because their brains basically mirror the fundamental way that our brains work. We're still at the bottom. We're still completely genetically hard-coded to seek pleasure, avoid pain, conserve energy. That's really the three things that are completely wired in, Mm-hmm. And when I started thinking about that, if you think about a mouse and you think about it's a pretty simple life because they're not burdened with that whole prefrontal cortex and all this, right. cognitive thinking ability that we have to analyze things. They're basically, I say the prime directives of a mouse are to get cheese and avoid cats. Right. And that pretty much sums it up for the mouse, And when you really think about that, you see it in action, and so getting cheese is really the good stuff, right? Metaphorically, it's the thing that we seek, the thing that we want, our self-interest, the pleasure. And I look at it in terms of the way that mice work, it's like you don't have to convince a mouse to try some cheese, They're hardwired to seek it out. Yeah. And if there's some cheese on the other side of the 3-inch wooden door, they're going to chew their way through it to get to it. But as soon as they sense a cat, they're going to immediately run away, And so that is really the same thing with our with the way we interact with people. They perceive us as the cat. They perceive the thing that they want as the cheese. And so I kind of, have been saying that, the main job is to add more cheese and less whiskers in the way that we approach people, right? And if you can get to a point, if we back it up from all the way, the whole exchange, the commerce exchange, the core unit, no matter what it is that you're offering, people are exchanging money in return for a result, right? Mm-hmm. Whatever it is. So whatever you're selling, whatever they're buying what you're selling only to get the result that having it will get for them. And that result can be anything from losing weight, feeling sexier, do whatever all our drives are, whatever, getting more money, whatever it is. Once you're in tune with what the actual result is, it's never about the logistics or the mechanics of what you're doing. Most people how can I get people to buy my course, right? Or to take my class, or to come to my seminar, or to buy my book, or whatever it is. That's incidental to what the result is going to be. And so if if you focus on the result, that brings clarity. You have to be crystal clear on what is the result that somebody's going to get. What is the result that I'm delivering? And that brings into clarity what's going to actually motivate people to do it. Right. And I think a lot of times people, you can't mask the fact that you have a weak result delivery mechanism with good marketing. There's no amount of words that can disguise that. You just need to get better at that's kind of like the baseline to entry, is getting better at defining and articulating the result that people are going to get for having interacted with you.
So I think one of the things that messes people up a little bit on this is they say, well, what about a time frame, right? So if I have a seminar coming up, or, I decide to hold a class and I've only got a 2-week window to sell it,
right?
How much compelling and, giving of value can I do before I present the offer?
Oh, and that's a great question. Is that your lack of preparing or building enough of a relationship with somebody that they know the value of coming to your seminar is really, you need to kind of do that in advance. You can't jam it into a 2-week period just because you didn't take the time 1 year and 2 weeks ago to start preparing.
But I need the money now.
That's not your exactly that. Your lack of preparing and adding value and building your reputation and doing all of those things is not, that's of no consequence to the person that you're trying to deliver the result for,
Right.
But all that said, there's still, you still want to take an approach for identifying baby steps as to, kind of like subsets, it's like, so I do a lot of events like that, sort of with 30 days notice, and hey, I'm coming to London, or I'm going to Toronto, or here in Orlando, whatever. I start with the only thing that I want to know is, first of all, are people interested in doing something like that? So I never start out and say, hey, I think people, this is where I get into this whole idea of compelling versus convincing. And most people, the mistake that I see the most often is that they're trying to front end load the convincing. They're leading with the convincing, but they're not, leading with the compelling. So if we look at it as somebody sitting in the seat at the day of the seminar starting as the bullseye, that's what you're starting. That's where the ultimate win is. That the people who are willing to do that are, on the broadest level, a subset of all the people you have access to who know you right now. If you take the outermost ring of that, right? So that's the outermost ring, is anybody who you have access to that knows who you are. Now, the compelling is about identifying where in the process you are in that, with that group of people. So the people who are going to pay money and come and sit in a seat at a seminar are the people who, they would be a subset of the people who might be interested in coming to a seminar with you, right? So I never start out when I'm doing an event announcing this event and doing the big fanfare, and here's the dates, and here's the registration link, and here's the, all this stuff. Here's what you're going to get, all the convincing up front. You better hurry, seats are limited, all that kind of stuff, trying to convince people. I want to start out and just find out, let's narrow the field a little bit, and let's see who might be interested in coming to an event like that. So I might say, hey, Kevin, I'm doing a small group mastermind in Orlando next month. Would you like to join us? Just that, no other information, right? Just getting a short, personal, expecting a reply message out that will narrow the field. Now, if you're going to cold list, that's to people who know me, right? And if that's the best thing. You got to realize, are you looking to visible prospects or invisible prospects, right? If you're trying to pull people out of the woodwork,
right,
then you've got to take a different sort of approach, right? And so I always look for what's the outermost ring of interest. If we take that kind of like lean startup kind of approach of the minimum viable product, well, let's transfer that to what's the minimum viable commitment that somebody could make, right? Yeah. And so what's the thing that would start the ball rolling, So especially if it's a expensive and complex type of sale to explain to people, let's start with finding people who are interested in something. So I'm a big fan of using things like books and guides and things that are just by their nature going to identify somebody as having an interest in a topic.
Right.
So, perfect example, Luba Winter, who as a device that helps with adult acne. Helps, with it's got the red and the blue LED lights and galvanic and ultrasonic waves, but it's a $900 device that's very difficult to sort of explain to somebody what it does. But it helps tremendously people with acne. So rather than try and do advertising that convinces people that they should buy this $900 device that they've never heard of, because it will help them, is let's start with identifying people who have the problem that it can solve. So we did a book called The Adult Acne Cure. And now you advertise, instead of advertising the device, advertising the book. And then people will, they raise their hand, and now you are engaged. You've got a name and an email address. You've turned an invisible prospect into a visible prospect. And once you've got a visible prospect, you can continue now to engage with them to find out all about them. How often do you get breakup? Is a great question to ask somebody like that. Or, and so the mechanics of that, if you're turning invisible prospects into visible, there's one example of using a book that the person who's your ideal prospect would definitely want that book. We've used lots of examples of this. People, a party rental company who does all the supplies and tables and linens and dishes and tents and all the stuff that you would need for an outdoor event. When we were talking, I asked them what their highest ticket things are, and it would be a full outdoor wedding is like the jackpot for a party rental company, right? And so, but choosing your table and dishes and stuff, that's pretty low on the list of things that somebody who's planning a wedding is going to get excited about at first, right? So they kind of, they wait until now we need to, get who's going to do the party rental stuff. But how can somebody like that get in front of their ideal clients? So forget about your own self-interest. What are they interested in? What is somebody who's interested in having a wedding? So we did a guide to 100 great places to have an outdoor wedding in Toronto, and put together that as as a lead generator. And that, when somebody asks for it, now you've got somebody who's in the early stages of planning an outdoor wedding. That's your ideal client, right?
Right.
Same thing. Yeah. I mean, you've heard me use a lot of the examples of this, but, I'll give you one more of doing a guy who does branding and packaging and social media for hockey players. Trying to convince people that they need to do branding and social media and all this stuff for their hockey playing kid. Well, it makes sense if you understand what their real motivation is. Their real motivation is in Canada. If you want to be in the NHL, the best thing that can happen to you is that you're born in Ontario, which is where all the hockey players come from, right? So the parents invest a ton of money in their kids playing elite hockey and thousands of dollars because they know that the NHL is a viable career path. Everybody, there's guys who've played on the teams that these kids are playing on now that have made it to the NHL. And they comfort themselves knowing that plan B, the worst case scenario, is that they'll get a college scholarship to a U.S. college or a hockey scholarship. So knowing that, focus on what's compelling, what's the self-interest, what's the thing that's going to make people feel like they've stumbled on a gold mine. If you're planning an outdoor wedding, finding a book called 100 Great Places to Have an Outdoor Wedding is a gold mine. If you've got adult acne, finding a book called The Adult Acne Cure is a gold mine. If you're an aspiring hockey player, finding the 2015-16 directory to U.S. hockey scholarships is a gold mine. Now, but when they get that book, when they get the guide to the U.S. hockey scholarship programs, the first question that's going to bring up now is, well, now what do I do? So now they're ready to hear how to make your kids stand out among all the other people that are competing for these hockey scholarships, you know?
Yeah, great. That's brilliant. It's brilliant, Dean. I just love that simple idea of looking at the biggest amount of people that you have access to, and then just drilling down with the famous 9-word email. And every time I send one of those, it blows my mind. Everybody I know who has any size list who's ever sent one just can't believe it. It's like you say.
Oh, I mean, the big temptation is that it? Are you sure? What if I say this? Or, I mean, do you have to fight? Do you have to, like, wrestle their arms away from the keyboard to stop them from typing more?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I've seen it happen again and again.
I'm sure. You had to do it for me over the phone, and you were very patient.
Yeah.
But I was amazed at my own resistance to something so simple and elegant. And when you do it right, it's. I've never had anybody not, go, wow. I mean, that was unbelievable. And then the idea, so this is incredibly important to what we're talking about, what we're seeing in the survey, this idea of, invisible and visible prospects, right? Because you could say, because I think what happens is a lot of people work in theory, right? And like you said, they're just thinking about what they want. They go, oh, if I can put together a $47 ebook, surely people will want it, and I bet I could sell 100 of them.
And they start doing the math.
They start doing the math, and so now they have this plan because it's a foregone conclusion that those things are going to happen, right?
I mean, that's it. And but they start handcuffing themselves to. Because of that logistics thinking, they start handcuffing themselves to, a $47 mechanism when really the potential, for the actual result could be $4,700,
Right.
And so if you're focused on the result that you're able to get for people, it's got to start with that. That's what's compelling.
Yeah.
Is where people have an insatiable appetite for getting the result they want.
Yeah. No, fantastic. And then you gave 3 great examples, Yeah. So the result people want is no more acne. The result they want is a beautiful outdoor wedding. The result they want as consolation is a scholarship. And so when you understand what they're thinking is the result, it's just so simple to get in front of them something that they're compelled to discover.
Yeah.
They really can't resist.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Let's. Do you have a few more minutes?
I do. I got all the time you need.
Man, you're the best. I really appreciate this. You know what I'd love to do? Let's just riff for a minute and take an example. Okay. Let's see if we can make one up on the fly. I didn't mean to do this, so I don't have a great example. But let's just say, you are an arborist, right? And your best gig is taking down a giant oak tree. And so I have people come through. I have a giant oak tree that needs to come down. So I have people routinely knock on my door. And if I didn't see the truck out there, I'd think they were there to rob me. and they say, Hey, you want us to cut down your tree? Well, we can have it gone in 3 hours and it'll be $500, right? And so they're trying to convince me that I should get that tree, have them cut down that tree because lucky me, they're in the neighborhood anyway. So let's say now, what's the smart way if I'm an arborist to do it in a compelling way? Well,
that's the perfect example. And just in you recounting that tale, is you have zero pain and urgency attached to that tree being removed right now. So you're not compelled to have that tree removed right now, right? At some point, what's going to happen to make that reality for you? I mean, what's going to happen is it's going to fall, or one of the branches is going to fall, or what would compel you to do it? What's your motivation? And I think that the challenge is that people try and think, how can I convince Kevin to get that tree removed right now? When you're probably, it's not compelling to you right now, and that's okay. But knowing that at some point that tree, one of those limbs is going to fall and it's going to be a problem for you, right?
Right.
And I think that there's it's like, dead tree removal, is going to be a thing that will surface when it becomes some kind of pain and urgency around it. I'll give you an example. So one of the very first things I did online was wrote a book called Stop Your Divorce. And wrote this in 1998 with a marriage counselor, and very carefully chose the word "stop your divorce" over "improve your relationship." Because it's exactly the same thing. That dead tree in your yard is metaphorically similar to a dead relationship that's just there. It's not hurting anything right now. It's on my list. I know I'm going to have to do something about it, but the moment that one of the spouses says, "That's it, I've had it, I want a divorce now," they spring into action. Same as as soon as one of those limbs falls down on your car or your house or one of your kids, you're immediately you've moved into pain and urgency, and you're going to be there, So if that guy, did they offer any sort of thought that it would be okay if you didn't want to do it right now, and that they're going to keep in touch with you, and then whenever the time comes, and they maybe staple a sticker or a sign or some form of the phone number on the tree for you, so that as soon as that tree falls, where to reach them?
No, in fact, they didn't. It was more like, what are you, crazy? You're never going to get this price again, and we're here now. We've got gas in the chainsaws. What's your problem?
Yeah, right, exactly. And it would be the same thing as a marriage counselor saying, "Hey, your relationship's in trouble. Why aren't you motivated to let me help you with that right now?" It's not, it's like, you're walking on thin ice, but as soon as that ice gives way, it's on top of your to-do list. And that's human nature. That's just human nature in every regard. We never do what we don't have to do right now because we are hardwired to seek pleasure, avoid pain, conserve energy. Conserve energy means I don't need to do it if I don't need to do it.
Great. Awesome. So
yeah.
Good. Appreciate that. And so if I'm listening to this and I say, okay, this is great, but I'm really starting from zero and I don't have an audience yet. I know what I can help people with. I know the pain I can solve for them. How do I go about investing in compelling over time, building that trust, giving that value? Like what's step one of that?
So get the result. I mean, get first of all, define the result that you are able to achieve, right? What's the result that you can help somebody get? If it's more money or getting rid of a pain or getting rid of their problem tree once it's really become a problem, all of those things, figure out what it is that you could do to get a result for somebody. And what is that result? What are you so good at doing? What result are you so certain that you could get for somebody that you would be willing to put your money on the line, right? What result can you get so certainly for somebody that you would be willing to enter into a situation where they only pay you if they get the result? And I'm just talking about that philosophically. I'm not saying that people need to articulate that. If you can get to that point where you can articulate that, the highest paid people in most situations are earning because of a result that they're able to get. You know, I mean, you look at trial attorneys, you look at real estate agents, you look at things where it's the result comes and then they take a fee based on the result.
Right.
That, if you can, kind of focus that way, it's a pretty amazing thought shift, is what's the result that you're so certain in that you would be able to say, let me get you the result and you pay me when you get the result,
Right.
Even if you just say that silently to yourself, that's a clarifying question, because if you're not that certain about it, then that's going to be, if you're not convinced yourself
right.
enough that you can get the result, then you're running into problems to convince other people,
Right.
Sometimes even just saying those words is enough to convince other people because, well, he wouldn't say that if he wasn't convinced of it,
Right. Yeah. Fantastic. Okay. Great stuff, Dean. Really appreciate it. I'm going to go off topic here for a minute. Anything to add to that before we move away?
No, I think that's really, that thinking of just getting crystal clear on what the result is and price it based on what on how you're able to get the result. Don't always start with what's the very best thing that I could do. What's the most amount of this result I could get for somebody? What's the, if they would just get out of the way, what am I capable of for them, rather than trying to meter out this fire hydrant worth of result that you could get for somebody through this garden hose of a $47 product,
Right. And those always are garden hose products too. It's like,
here's exactly
everything. And now here's more if you want it. And it's twice as expensive. And my magic funnel.
Yes.
Okay, so I wanted to ask you I was listening to an interview the other day with, I think Joe just made this public, with Peter Diamandis and Tony Robbins. And you're there, of course, and you have a relationship with both these guys. And I'm just compelled to ask, because I know you and I know what just an amazingly cool, mellow, unassuming guy you are. But when you're around a guy like Tony Robbins, just let me do a little stargazing here. Like, what's going on? What's going on with that? Because every time that guy speaks, you feel it. You know, there's just an energy coming out of that guy that is beyond human. And I had the privilege to meet and perform for Michael Jordan once, and it was a similar thing where you're going, this is not a normal human being. And
yes, I've met Michael Jordan too. You're right.
Yeah, right. They have this aura, right? This energy. What's going on there? And is there any way to guide yourself to a place where that becomes a part of you?
Well, I think that Tony Robbins is exactly like you would expect Tony Robbins to be when you're hanging out with him. He's exactly that. He's fully present. He's fully authentic. He's interested. He's interesting. Just the sweetest, gentlest guy. I mean, he really is a delight, and that's one of the things that was really like the genesis of me shifting to focus about results like this was actually in the first time that we had Tony Robbins on I Love Marketing. He was, we always would ask people, when did you fall in love with marketing? And his answer was really very interesting. He said, well, I never really loved marketing, but I love people and I love getting results for people. So I focused on that. And it struck me when he said that how Peter Drucker has said very famously that the only two things that matter in business are marketing and innovation, and everything else is an expense, right? And I've always taken comfort in the fact that at least we're in that equation because we're in marketing, and I always discounted innovation because I always thought about that as a inventing and a technical thing, But when you really break it down, innovation is really about getting better at getting a result for somebody. And so that's why now you always start with the innovation, always start with being able to fully get to the best of your ability, better than anybody in the marketplace, the result that your clients are looking for. And, I just have there's been so many like drip, so many layers of these nuggets that have all kind of built up this idea. Richard Branson asked him what the the key to marketing kind of thing. How do you get that out? And he said that the first thing is that you've got to have a product or service that you want to scream from the mountaintops about. And if you don't have that, that's where you got to start. You got to get so good and so contagious about your ability to get that result. Then you start with one person, right? Because the first time you do something, you don't know for sure, so you test your hypothesis, right? You make sure that you can actually get the result and start documenting it and sharing that. And that's going to lead to more and more people who see the results that you're getting, who are going to want to get that result for themselves.
And then you can go on and start creating products and trainings.
Then the marketing becomes so much easier. You got to get to a point where their desire for the result is what's going to drive things forward, and your confidence in your ability to deliver the result is going to temper the urgency that you have to try and convince them to give you the money,
Wow. Dean Jackson, you're a great man, you're a great friend, and I really appreciate you taking the time to share this with us.
Thanks so much.
Hey, thanks again for listening to the Truth About Marketing podcast. If you like this show and you think other people would like this show, the best way to spread the word is by reviewing and rating the show in iTunes. Just log in, click review, leave a big old fat 5-star review, and let everybody know that you dig the show so that they can dig it too. To get all the links and resources we mentioned on today's episode, please go to copychief.com/TAM, as in Truth About Marketing. And if you'd like to learn more about how you can improve your sales copy with templates, formulas, coaching, feedback, or hiring a pro, do all that on the inside of the members area of copychief.com. And I will look for you there. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.